During World War II, the Nazi Germany submarine named U-1206 was hiding in the North Sea. Below, there was the terror of the ocean, and above, British planes were keeping watch. At this very moment, the submarine's captain made a mistake while using the toilet and opened the wrong valve. Within seconds, seawater flooded into the vessel and reached the batteries, causing chlorine gas to start forming. The crew was forced to bring the submarine to the surface, where the British Navy and Air Force were keeping a strict watch. As soon as they spotted it, they destroyed the submarine and captured all the crew members. 200 meters deep in the ocean, there is absolutely no room for error for submarines. Even the smallest mistake can be a death sentence. It's said that a submariner's real enemy isn't anyone else but their own mind. Their world is just a steel tube, moving hidden hundreds of meters below the sea. Above is the weight of water, below is the silence of death, and in between, humans. The crew living inside don't just stay underwater for days, but for months at a time. In 2024, HMS Vengeance set a new record by staying underwater for a full 201 days. But here the question arises, how do submariners live in the depths of the ocean for more than 7 months? How do they manage food, water, and most importantly, the shortage of oxygen? What happens to toilets and other waste deep under the sea? And if something goes wrong, like it did with U-1206, what options do they have?
Welcome once again to Zylo videos.
Viewers, many people think of submarines as luxury vessels. Everything you need for comfort is available. But in reality, being cut off from the rest of the world deep under the sea is a huge challenge in itself, even if you're in a 5-star suite. In truth, a submarine is nothing less than a coffin. It's a cramped tube designed to swim hidden in the depths of the ocean. Inside, space is so tight that 2 people can barely walk past each other in the same spot. We're talking about Navy submarines, which may look pretty big from the outside, but inside, they have to fit the engine, supplies for several months, and, amazingly, space for more than 130 crew members. Just for comparison, let me tell you that while a normal prison cell gives an inmate up to 80 square feet of space, on a submarine, a crew member gets to enjoy only about 20 square feet. So, if you say that submariners aren't just on a mission, but are actually going into confinement for 6 or 7 months, that wouldn't be wrong either. There's no such thing as privacy here. Each person's private space is limited to just their shoulders. At all times, someone's shoulder is bumping into someone else's, and this is where the first challenge for submariners begins: claustrophobia. This is a condition where a person becomes terrified in confined spaces. Panic attacks happen, their heartbeat races, and the mind doesn't function properly. Decisions made in this state are often wrong as well. During the Navy's selection process, claustrophobia is closely observed. If even the slightest symptoms appear, the candidate is rejected. The very first challenge of submarine life is your sleep. If you have your own private bed to sleep in, you're lucky, because there's no such thing as a private bed for submariners. These bunks are as tight as coffins, stacked one on top of another, where a person can only lie down. Sitting up isn't even possible. Lying on a submarine bed is no less than sleeping in a grave. Submarines like the USS Missouri have 135 crew members, but only 94 beds. That means different sailors share the same bed. There's a system here called hot bunking. When one sailor gets up for his duty, at that very moment, someone else's duty ends, and they slip into that same warm bed. In other words, the bed is never cold here. Just think, even your sleep isn't really your own. It's part of the shift system. There's no concept of day or night on submarines, because they're hundreds of meters below the sea, where there's no chance of sunlight reaching. That's why a person's sleeping cycle is completely different from the natural sleep cycle. Everyone here has to create their own artificial sleep cycle. Now you might be wondering, with so many people locked in one place for so long, where do they get their food from? When a submarine goes on a mission, up to 20,000 kilograms of food supplies are loaded onto it. But what's even more surprising is that there's no special storage for this food on the submarine. Instead, all the food is spread out throughout the submarine. All the supplies are laid out under the beds and in the corridors, and crew members literally walk over them. For the first few days, fresh fruits, vegetables, and milk products are available. These have to be consumed in the initial weeks. After that, the entire crew survives on canned and frozen food. But food on submarines is considered top-notch because it's the one thing that keeps the crew's morale high hundreds of meters below the surface. If the food on a submarine gets boring, depression can increase. That's why, on some long missions, there are even ice cream machines, and sometimes they have steak nights too. There are proper kitchens and chefs on board, but to minimize accidents, all the cooking's done on electric stoves and in ovens. And the most unique thing is that normally people eat 3 meals a day, but on submarines there are a total of 4 meals: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and finally mid-rats. This mid-rat meal is served after midnight. The reason for this is that the environment inside a submarine is extremely stressful, which causes crew members' bodies to burn more calories than the average person. An extra meal is added to help prevent them from feeling sluggish. And secondly, for those whose duty shift is at night, the mid-rat meal is their only source of energy in between. And now comes the most amazing part: oxygen. Hundreds of meters below the sea surface, there are no windows you can just open to let in fresh air. It's literally a sealed metal tube. So where does fresh oxygen come from for submariners? Keeping oxygen cylinders in the submarine for such a long time is also risky because oxygen's a flammable gas. That's why submarines are equipped with an impressive electrolysis system. They break down the salty seawater to separate out the oxygen, and the leftover hydrogen gas is discarded. Every person uses about 600 liters of oxygen per day. So if there are 130 crew members, the system installed in the submarine has to produce 78,000 liters of oxygen every day. It's basically like the system of an underwater space station. If the system fails, the crew members start feeling short of breath within just a few minutes. But just producing oxygen in a submarine isn't enough to keep the crew alive. When a person breathes, they also release carbon dioxide. Now, if oxygen is being produced on one side and consumed, while at the same time carbon dioxide gas is also being produced but not consumed by anyone, this creates an imbalance in the air. If carbon dioxide gas goes above 10%, it's definitely dangerous. That's why modern submarines are equipped with carbon dioxide scrubbers. The air inside the submarine is passed through a tower where a liquid called amine is sprayed. This chemical absorbs only the carbon dioxide from the air. But if this system fails, in case of emergency, canisters of soda lime or lithium hydroxide are placed at various spots. When air passes through these canisters, the chemical reacts with the carbon dioxide and turns it into solid carbonate. But this is only for emergencies, because once a canister is full, it becomes waste, and then disposing of it becomes a whole new problem. On submarines, having fresh water is essential for everything from cooking and showering to laundry and drinking. But all the water the submarine is floating in is salty seawater. This same water is purified either by distillation, which means turning it into steam, or by filtering it through reverse osmosis. Since nuclear submarines have no shortage of energy, they use the distillation method, whereas modern submarines are equipped with high-tech filters that separate the salt from seawater to produce fresh water. Water can definitely be produced here, but even then, there are strict rules for using it. No one here gets 15 minutes for a shower. In fact, a submariner is only allowed to use the shower for 60 seconds. Even while living in the middle of the ocean, a submariner longs for every single drop of water. Getting rid of trash in a submarine is also a major tactical challenge. A submarine is under so much water pressure that even a single hole would cause seawater to flood in like a deluge, just like what happened with the U-1206. So how do they manage everything from toilet waste to wastewater? Toilet waste is first collected in a sanitary tank. When this tank fills up, extremely powerful pumps are used to dispose of the waste right into the sea. These pumps apply more pressure than the pressure of the sea. During this process, it's absolutely essential for the valves to open in the correct sequence. If the outer valve opens first and the inner one later, seawater could blast into the submarine. As for solid trash, it's compacted and packed into steel containers, and sometimes it's even launched outside using a torpedo. Machines handle almost everything else, but what about humans? They say that here. A person's biggest enemy is their own mind. No sunlight for months, barely any contact with family, the same smell, the same walls, and the same faces everywhere. Crew members can suffer from depression, anxiety, and claustrophobia. Even a small argument in a submarine can become very dangerous. That's why, to create a day and night pattern, the lights in the submarine are colored like natural daylight during the day. And at night, the lights turn red so the mind gets the signal that it's nighttime. But no matter what, the crew has to make life and death decisions in these very conditions. In October 1944, a torpedo missile was fired from a submarine called the USS Tang. But due to a small miscalculation, the torpedo was launched but ended up circling back and hitting the very submarine that had fired it. Whether it's the toilet incident of the U-1206 or the USS Tang being hit by its own torpedo, these accidents show us that the life of a submariner isn't just about fighting the enemy, but every moment is a battle with their own mind, their own machine, and the silent sea, where the price of a mistake is only death.
I hope you enjoy Tell Zylo videos and support them wholeheartedly by liking and sharing. Thank you so much for your love and wonderful comments. See you in the next amazing video.